Hi, I'm Lisa Gardner, and it's a pleasure to be here today and talk to you about my book, You'll Be Sorry.
Today on One Final Twist, we welcome best-selling, award-winning author Lisa Gardner. Her new book, You'll Be Sorry, is available August the 4th from Grand Central Publishing. Welcome, Lisa.
Hi, Scott. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hi. Well, to get us started, tell us a little bit about You'll Be Sorry.
This book was a lot of fun for me to write. It's one of my first thrillers in a bit, and it takes place in a remote town in the mountains of New Hampshire, which may or may not bear a startling resemblance to where I live in real life. Did you ever watch the show back in the 80s? I think it was Northern Exposure.
Oh,
We had
yeah.
all the quirky characters in this tiny little community in
Yes.
Alaska.
Yes.
Well, that's kind of where I live. Like, we have a number of retired people who worked for no such agency, a couple people who have PhDs in rare forms of math and things that none of the rest of us understand. And the more you get to know very interesting and very unique neighbors, the more you're like, this would be a great place to get away with murder. So that brings us to You'll Be Sorry, where a family disappeared mysteriously 30 years ago. An entire family of six in the middle of the night. Never been seen or heard from since. It remains their house is like they're now the local haunted house where the kids double dog dare each other to step onto the front porch. Except a new young couple has arrived and taken ownership. Who they are, why they're there, and then why does this appear that finds the first skeleton almost immediately. And we're off and running from there.
I want to fangirl just a minute. I have been reading you since my oldest daughter was born, and as I was telling Scott, I went to church with the librarian, and he would call me like, Teresa, it's in.
Oh, I love to hear that. And I love librarians.
Yeah, so I'd always got to know. But what? So I know it's been a very long time. What are we? Maybe I want to. I feel like around maybe 20 years since you've done a standalone. Has it been that long? So how did it feel to go from a series? Which,
Uh,
by the way, I love Frankie. Okay, but how did it feel to go from doing
It
series to a
was
standalone?
jarring. I mean, I started writing the Gothics, like my first thriller, The Perfect Husband, about the husband that could be the serial killer kind of thing. So on the one hand, I had this great idea for the book where it's all about this mysterious young couple and they love each other, but clearly there's a lot of secrets. And I thought it was going to feel like nostalgic to go back to my roots, but I've been writing for series for so long. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. This is really hard. I mean, every character's new. Every character has to be set up, but it's also liberating. There was no boundaries anymore. There was no like backstory or, facts that I'd already given that I had to adhere to. I mean, it was really like unlimited what could happen in this tiny town with this kind of haunted house and all of these his secrets between not just a family, but a community. Going back 200 years in colonial times, I invented a witchy rhyme. I actually, time of my life, I'm not gonna lie.
What made you decide to have a cold weather thriller?
I actually love the winter. I live up in the mountains. We're ski country, and I'm a hiker, but you hike in the winter up here too. And I just, when everything first gets blanketed in snow and just the beauty of the mountains, but it adds to the isolation. What I really wanted in You'll Be Sorry, kind of the small town equivalent almost of a locked room mystery. I mean, this is one of those places everyone thinks they know each other.
Yeah.
But this is also this town set in this place of like frozen grief where we think we know each other, we think we're safe, no crime happens here. Oh, except, for that entire family of six that disappeared one night, no one's seen again. So there's this veneer of, we're the perfect little New England charming village, again, except for that whole little fact that there's this family of six that disappeared one night. And just, that isolation and we know each other, but we don't know each other. But we know each other, but we don't know each other.
Was it hard? So, like, I mean, the family disappears, but there's no clues. There's nothing to go.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of like as we read, the readers, we pick up a clue, or that's a red herring, we pick up a clue, and then we that. So, to not have any clues to start with, was that hard, or what? Did you find that fun too?
It was actually the biggest challenge I had with this novel. So one of the things I do is I always start with the police. In fact, in the beginning, I wasn't planning on this book being a police procedural, but I worked so much with my local small town police chief. And again, we have limited resources being this remote, but it also got to be really fun because I learned a lot about basically DIY policing. mean, that's how it's done up here. You don't have bells and whistles. You don't have a crime lab. It's very, seat of your pants and being a genius to get what you need. But you always start with, we want to believe the police did everything right. So 30 years ago, what would you have looked for? What were the clues you tried to get? And even 30 years ago, we had DNA, we had blood spatter. There was a lot of video surveillance around. So you want to make sure all the right things were done, and yet still there's no evidence. And 30 years later, there's still no evidence. And I'm a seat of the pants writer, meaning I didn't actually know what happened to the family till pretty much like the day before my deadline. And that was very stressful. I'm not going to lie.
That stresses me
Well, that's the genius of you, because the ending, it was very, it was great. I'll just say that. I don't want to, not going to give any spoilers, but you wrapped it up like it couldn't
Thank
have been
you.
wrapped up
Yeah,
any better. The
thank you. It was
historical.
very cute. I did an event with Jody. Oh, go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
no, you go ahead. No, you finish. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying I had done an event with Jody Pico like right before my book was deadline was due, and I was telling her I didn't know who had done it yet, and I actually stressed her out. She was just like, "You can't even be here. You need to go home right now." And then like, and I was like, "Okay, I have the ending for your book." And then after, I have another ending for your book. It's like, wow, I know I stressed myself out, but I didn't actually realize I was stressing out other writers in the community with my lack of planning.
Oh, that's awesome. There's a small historical aspect to it. You mentioned the 200-year-old witch. It's witchy story. How did you? What challenges did you have incorporating 200 years of history into your storyline?
So I actually grew up on the West Coast in Oregon.
Mhm.
And one of the things for me that's always been fascinating and that I'm maybe more aware of than some people who now that I've lived in New England for 30 years is you really are living hand in hand with history in a way that clearly in Oregon you don't.
Yeah.
So one of the things I've loved about the towns up here and even my own tiny little village is, our historical society is vibrant and a happening place. And we still have, when I talk about it, and you'll be sorry, the founding families. I mean, history is everywhere. I go hiking in the woods and you will come across abandoned hand-dug wells. You will come across the old stone walls. So to set a book in the mountains of New Hampshire, to me, you had to go with history too, because it's just part of everyday life. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And so many of these towns and the way they were founded, and in many cases, some of the trauma of that founding and some of the things that happened around those times, including, of course, New England, the witch trials. I mean, that is still part of the fabric of the identity of not just the community, but still to this day, who some of the villagers and some of these people who they are.
You had mentioned earlier about the little rhyme.
Yeah.
So I know those, like we have a bazillion here.
Yes.
And so and of course, when I find those in books, I will Google them. So now that explains kind of why I couldn't find that one.
No.
Because you made it up. But is it kind of based on something that you're involved in or that is told there?
I was actually just thinking about when you're a little kid on the playground doing jump rope.
Yeah.
You get all those little chants. And it became clear at a certain point in this book, there is a rhyme about witches that all the village school children have just always been chanting, for hundreds of years now. And that all of a sudden it kind of takes a turn in the book. We start to realize this actually might be alluding to something real and something important. That, what are the basis of these little rhymes we tell ourselves? Like, where do they come from? And once I realized how important it was, it's like, oh, good God, now I have to actually have the real chant to work with. So it was like a Sunday afternoon, and I'm like, I need a witchy rhyme. And I was actually in my dance class. I've been taking Roomba. And so I'm like, the dance instructor, do you know any good witchy rhymes? And by the end of this hour, he and I had come up with a witch rhyme. It was really good fun. It's fun to be an author sometimes. And I guess it's fun to hang out with an author sometimes because you get to, today we're going to do a rhyme about witches.
Dixon Lodge, is that based on a real place?
No, I actually made up the Dixon Lodge, but I will say it kind of goes more back to, I think, in a lot of communities, everyone knows like that house, like the scary house at the end of the street or the kind of abandoned, dilapidated house that, the teenagers, that's where you go to get into trouble. That's Halloween, where all the scary, spooky things. And so I just had a strong vision of that in my head. Around here, we used to have some really great old grand hotels, but they were all made out of wood. And so before I moved into town 30 years ago, a lot of them burned down in fire. But before then, that is where you would find, the teens, because a lot of these places were abandoned and they were beautiful, grand old properties. And to see them go into that state of repair, I mean, there's something I think almost viscerally sad about that. And it's kind of a bit of a scar on it as well.
So
Yeah,
you'd
I
mentioned
don't.
you
Yeah.
were kind of buying into your
Yeah,
pants. So when you do that, how do you get three, like you've got three solid storylines. You're in any of your books, when you have storylines coming together, how do you keep it straight when you are by the seat of your pants? Like I am a checklist. Like my
Yeah.
whole life, I have these everywhere in my life.
Yeah.
So I couldn't do it. So how, when you do have these intersecting storylines, is it hard to keep up, or is it just you've done this for so long now, you're in your
It's
mode?
interesting because in my real life, I'm so, anal retentive and I do have all my checklists. I think sometimes that's why I write differently, a little bit more. I guess I want to be imaginative or creative, though really it just proves to be highly stressful, as you might imagine. There's a certain instinct to it, and that at a certain point, I've been writing thrillers for over 35 years, and you're like, okay, it's time to ante up, like what's at stake. It's time, for a more gruesome or startling discovery to keep the interest going. But I will admit there's a magic to me in the writing process after even 35 years. All I can ever think of is that movie Shakespeare in Love, where they talk about, I think it's Jeffrey Rush's, like, it's madness, it's chaos, it makes no sense. And yet it comes together. It comes together where suddenly, somehow, within, right towards the end of the project, there'll be this moment where even for me, it's like, oh, this is how it all meets. This is what this has been about all along. And it sounds ridiculous. How can I not know that? But that's the magic of the creative process. And it's those moments that keep you coming back as a writer.
So this is kind of off track a little bit. You have done this for so long, and it's me too, maybe being a mom and a worrywart. That's what I do.
Yeah.
But do you get to write just for yourself, or do you write for your readers, or have you ever struggled with that? Like, I feel like I need to do this for my readers, but what about me? Is that making sense? Kind of how I'm asking that?
Does. It does. I've been really lucky in that what I actually love to read for myself is suspense. Now, I've moved around some. So, like the Frankie Elkin books were something I wrote more for myself, in that I really was passionate about the kind of work Frankie's doing, that topic. How many people disappear among us that no one even looks for at all. And to me, that's a kind of social tragedy. So the opportunity to write about Frankie for me, was very personal for me, but I was also very lucky. Other people like that story. And also, I mean, people really loved Frankie. So I've been just very fortunate. Those things have over my own interests. And I think I'm someone, I love the puzzles. I love criminal behavior. I love police procedural. So all the stuff that's fascinating for me and makes me want to work as a writer very graciously, there's all the stuff readers love too. So it's always just worked out really very well, very hand in hand.
I don't know why I worry about that. I think, what if the author had got to a point in her, or I've seen authors who have been in a series and there's a big change in the series, and my immediate thought seems to go to, I bet that publicist had their finger on their shoulder. That doesn't sound like my author. I worry about that
Called the
stuff.
writer's writer. I mean, I feel like at the end of the day, if you don't love it, and if you're not passionate for the material, and if you don't love finding this story, which for me, if you think of, I show up every day not knowing what I'm doing, so I have to be committed to the story. I mean, the readers are going to know that. It's not going to come across. And I think the biggest thing we can do as creative personalities is be passionate and tell the story we want to tell. And then you really do hope the audience follows you. And good news, we still are all fascinated with secrets and how much should we be afraid of our neighbors or the person we're married to, or or how to get away with murder. So it's all working out very well.
Have
Uh,
you ever?
so
Go
I
ahead.
didn't really realize too about writers' voice. Oh, sorry, Scott. You go.
No,
I will keep
no.
going.
Well, have you ever had when you're doing your research, is there anything that has ever just
Yes.
blown your mind that you were able to include in a book?
To me, some of the most fun research I end up doing for You'll Be Sorry, and this isn't giving too much away, towards kind of the beginning of the book, this dog appears and leads them straight to a skeleton in an abandoned well that no one knew about. And so now I have to figure out in the real world, what would you do if you found a skeleton in an abandoned well on a property? So again, I started with contacts in New Hampshire, and it turns out, well, again, we're a rural state and we don't have top of the line, or we don't have the manpower for things. They're like, a skeleton is actually kind of low down the list. So it's not even the medical examiners. They kick it to the University of New Hampshire
Oh,
as a forensic anthropology identity and recovery lab. So then I go meet with them. Okay, there's a skeleton at the bottom of the well. And kind of look at me, they're like, well, when we have the time to get to it, whereas I'm like, I'm assuming we're CSI, we're immediately cordoning off. And I mean, I have sifters and people with little brushes, and we're going to work this thing within an inch of their life. And they're like, yeah, she's like, I have a plastic bin from, Walmart I kind of like. And, we won't even go into the well. I mean, that's repelling. We don't do that. We'd ask, some local kid, hey, do you rock climb? You go in the well, you do this. And it was just, I was like, yeah, no, never in my wildest dreams was that how the scene was going to play out. But it was all very real world. If you
yeah.
have limited time and resources, this is what you do. You know?
Where is the oddest place that an idea, the fodder for the next story has came to you? Like you said, you hike and you're in the woods and you're in
Yeah.
all these places all the time. So where's the oddest place that the little light has
Yeah, the
come
light
on?
bulb. Well, so there's a couple years ago, I did a book, a Frankie Elkin book, Still See You Everywhere, that takes place in a remote atoll in the Pacific. That's like even by plane 3 hours outside of Hawaii. I had actually gone to a remote atoll in the Pacific, but really just kind of on vacation. It was an education trip about the environment. It's a location, it's not even inhabited really. It's just a research station for the Nature Conservancy where they've been looking at coral reef reclamation. And that happens to be a passion of mine. So I was just there for that. And like in the middle of the night, I have this giant wolf spider over my head. I can't pee because there's coconut spiders guarding the pass, and they will kill you apparently if they have. They're like the apex predator of the atoll. And
Uh-huh.
I'm like terrified out of my mind and soaking wet because the humidity is 90% all the time. And I'm like so uncomfortable and scared and just not really having that paradise experience that you're thinking, I'm going to an atoll in the Pacific. And I was like, I just really want to kill someone. And then I'm like, oh, and they would never know. And that became a book, as you can imagine. Yes, it does.
That's so funny. I kind of wish that we would have got to interview you for that. I had no idea that that's kind of where the fodder for that one came from, that you were actually there.
Yeah. And then I was talking to the manager of the camp there, the research camp, and he's like, a question is, because I'm thinking of The Shining now. I mean, it's isolating. It's physically uncomfortable to be there. I mean, you're off the grid. You don't have plumbing. You don't have this. You don't have that. You don't have air conditioning or even a fan. It's like, how do you keep people from going insane? And he's like, it is a genuine issue. I mean, as you can imagine, the psychological screening is real. And again, these are things like you're going to paradise. I didn't even think about. And it's like, okay, so now we're remote. You've got a bunch of researchers, which means they're very smart. Um, and yeah, what kind of bad, terrible things can happen and no one would know.
Definitely don't want to go there now.
I have a great tourist guide. By the time I'm done, there's so many places in the world you will not go to anymore. Remote mountains, towns in the mountains, Pacific atolls. I mean, you'll be very happy to be at home by the time I'm done with you.
We do a lot. We hike a lot. We are outside week
Okay.
1 week a year, and we're gone every year. And people, I think what they don't really realize when it comes to outdoors, especially now, is that if you will respect Mother
Yeah.
Nature, you will come back alive. If you do not respect that little situation, it's going to be a whole lot worse than when you left. So I see that you have two different covers
Yes.
on behind you. So tell me about those.
British,
Oh,
America, the US. That's
yeah,
why. Similar, which they're not always because they're different markets. But in this case, they
yeah.
both went definitely with the old barn, or New England. The Brits definitely have a kinder, gentler view of old mountain town houses. It's like this is actually would be quite lovely compared.
I want to talk about
Yeah.
walking after midnight. So just because getting ready for this, I feel like it was in the back of my brain years ago. And you had written it
Yes.
under a pseudonym, Alicia Scott.
Yeah.
So why did you do that? Or was it fun? Or do you think back to that and see how much you've grown? And I mean, is that experience watching yourself, knowing what you've done, how much you've accomplished? And because a lot of times we interview a lot of newer authors, we really do. And because in my head, I mean, I love a debut author too. But getting to see the
Oh,
growth and
sure.
where you started and where you are, kind of tell me
Yeah.
about that experience.
Yeah. So I wrote Walking After Midnight when I was 17 years old.
Oh,
I
wow.
was actually still in high school when I wrote that. And I sold it in college. Nothing about publishing, nothing. So when the publisher said, you should have a pseudonym, well, at that point, I'm 20 years old. And I'm like, okay. I mean, if the big publisher tells me I should have a pseudonym, I should. I didn't realize it. And it was a practice. They don't do it anymore. But the publisher also then kept control of the pseudonym. So if you ever left them, you couldn't write under that name again. It's not done
Ah,
anymore. But again, you're talking, many, many moons ago. But the joke was on them because I was never a great Alicia Scott author. So when I wrote my first big thriller, The Perfect Husband, and I had a new publisher who was very excited for it, and they realized they could not publish it as Alicia Scott. They're like, yeah, that Alicia Scott girl, no one ever really read her. And I'm like, well, kind of guilty as charged. So, so I got to just be me. And that was great because that was also like 10 years later. And I knew at that point I wanted to be a full-time real author, a suspense thriller author. So it felt good to kind of start this whole second chapter, but start at that better foundation.
have you ever wanted to write in another genre, like romance or children's? Have you ever thought about that?
My career we call romantic suspense. So there's more romance in them. But then it turned out I really do like the suspense elements. But what I liked about starting there was in a romantic suspense novel, the characters really are everything. And I feel like that was really good training because I feel like the best thrillers are character driven.
Yeah.
But I love to read all over the place. Like I love to read the YA novels and fantasy, the romantasy books. I love historic books, nonfiction. But I learned a long time ago, because I did try at various stages, if there's not a dead body, I'm really helpless as a writer. I don't know what that says about me, but without a central crime, I
Yeah.
just can't make the rest of the book come together.
I
So
get
here
you.
we are, 35 years later, I'm still killing people. You know? Once you find your strength, you just go for it, you know?
I understand.
What was the last book that you read out of your normal genre that you thought, you read it and you said,
Oh
well,
my
that
goodness,
was
I
good. I'm
just finished actually
surprised.
probably one of my favorite books of the year. So I do a family book club. It's with my mom, my cousin who's my age, and then my child and my niece. So we have three generations in it. And the last pick was this great book, and I'm not going to get the author off the top of my head, but it's been a big buzz book. It's called What Are Friends For? And it's a bit of I guess you would call it a dramedy. It takes place, it's in California, and it a kind of, they're called the Golden Gays. It's a group of retired four gay men. They've survived AIDS. They're kind of getting to the end of their lives. Their big heroes are the Golden Girls on TV. Remember the TV show?
Mhm.
And you're following them, and they're starting to realize they never expected to grow old. I mean, again, with the AIDS crisis and everything that happened to that community, and they almost like don't know how to grow old. Like that's not even a role model they have. And so there's some really thought-provoking, very serious issues kind of brought up. Like one had family excommunicated him. Now all of a sudden they want to start making amends. Does he want to? But it's also very funny. So it's one of those great, I mean, I think we're seeing a lot and streaming and TV right now too, the kind of the dramedies. They make you laugh, and then because you're laughing, you almost think harder and it touches you deeper. And so What Are Friends For? I highly recommend it. It's a great character read. Like it's really about friendship and the found family. Like we're big on our buzzwords now. It's about your found family. But it's so well done. And you just finish it and you feel warm, but it makes you really think what it's like to be a member of that community.
What
Yeah.
advice would you give to a aspiring writer?
It's interesting to me because on the one hand, in the 3 decades I've been around, the industry's changed so much. Like we're so decentralized now. There's like 1.5 million ways to get published. And there's, I don't know, 500% more books being published daily at this point than when I started out. But on the other hand, I think a lot of things remain the same. You need to be a passionate reader. You need to be passionate for story and be committed to your own, because there's also so many voices in our heads across the board right now, whether it's, writing a novel or even just your day-to-day life telling you what to think, how to feel, what to dress, what to eat. I think if you're a creative personality at all, finding that way to be authentic and to still be but what's the story I want to tell? Why am I sitting down to do this? It's a harder and harder space to find and becomes more and more important to protect. And then after saying all of that, to be honest, to be at least a commercial fiction author now, it's social media, social media, social media. So you get to, learn Instagram and TikTok and bookstagrammers, but it's also welcome the community. It's great to be able to go online and find a whole reading community right there of people who want to talk about the best books they've read lately and listen to podcasts about people who love authors and books and are passionate for, I sometimes feel reading's an endangered pastime. And since it's my favorite pastime, I'm like, go reading, go reading.
Another one of your passion projects, Tales and Tales. Will you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this. So yeah, I have my own little trusty sidekick. I have my little, you want a photobomb here, Annabelle? There's my little puppy, Annabelle. So I do everything with my 3 dogs. Okay, Annabelle's going back to bed. Like we're just way too exciting for her. So one of the events at Fredericksburg, Virginia, at Tales and Tales, they sponsored for the book signing event, which is I believe August 8th, a litter of puppies from the Humane Society. So it's the Lisa Gardner litter. I believe it's 9 puppies.
Oh, wow.
They've all been named for various characters, including a Frankie and an Elkin and a Dee Dee Warren. We just yesterday posted the latest reel because the puppies are now like 5, 6 weeks old. They're ridiculously cute, and they will be available for adoption at the book signing.
Oh, wow.
So I apparently am going to have 9 puppies on the plane the next day, but I'm okay with that.
Well, I kind of just want to know what's next for you. What's coming up? What we got another Frankie
I
in the
haven't
works?
decided, which is not like me. Normally by now I know. I am doing something now that will make you laugh. I call it crime shopping. A lot of my books start with something from the real world, a true crime or a phenomenon, or even like a criminal trend we're seeing, men killing their beautiful blonde wives because apparently they didn't want to divorce them instead. And you're like, why? Why would you do that? Kind of thing. And so I'm reading a lot of true crime books, watching crime shows. I do a lot of the search for like strange news, like the stuff that just seems too crazy. And I'm just waiting for that idea. And then once I know what that is, that will help me. Is that a better Frankie Elkin case? Would that be something our Boston detective Dee Dee Warren would like? Or should that be another standalone? So I haven't got the right core crime idea yet. So people, if you have any good, great crime ideas, fictional, we're hoping, let me know. If it's something you got away with, do not let me know. People will actually follow these correspondence and it might come back to, I don't murder you actually committed. Just
Do you happen to have
I get prison notes, and sometimes they do like to tell me a lot.
do
Oh
you
my, Lanta, you get a prison.
Large
I
reading
would die,
population.
but
So, and then they write fan letters, and a lot of them want to tell you their story. And some are like, of course I didn't do it. And some of them like, oh yeah, I totally did it. But here's the reason why I had to kill this person. And then because of that, I had to kill that person. And because of that, and I've gotten some marriage proposals. So, I mean, welcome to the day in the life of a suspense novelist.
Oh. Is there a local indie bookstore that can provide signed copies for people if they want a signed copy?
Yes.
Okay, what is that?
I am very fortunate. Living in the mountains of New Hampshire, we are famous for White Birch Books in North Conway. They're a fabulous independent. They can ship out signed copies. Also, one of my favorite bookstores, also, though I'm a guest for them, Poison Pen in Scottsdale, Arizona. Also, I just signed 120 books for Barbara, and some of those also, if you want to call in. If you do my local, I can come in and personalize it. If you just want a signature, Poison Pen can absolutely set you up. And one lucky winner, we're calling it the golden ticket of either venue, I stuck in each batch an actual piece of continental currency from the 1700s.
That's awesome.
Because that is also integral to You'll Be Sorry in history. So in one of those books, through either White Birch or Poison Pen, one lucky reader will get a piece of genuine continental currency.
Awesome.
Okay.
let me ask this. So because of what we read, I'm continually
Yes.
thinking about what I can get away with. Like, so there is a very specific train tracks that is way out in the boondocks, and it's where they change the front to back and they move the tracks and the train is stopped. And I'm like, if I were going to hijack a car so I could get away with it, like that's where, do you find yourself thinking about that? Like when you're in situations that, or something so simple as that cop wasn't paying attention, I could have taken his handgun, boom. Or like, do you find yourself in situations like day to day, judging, comparing what they could have done, what you could do if you were the
You know what's
bad guy, what you
weirder than
could do?
that? I read this fabulous book once. I can't remember, but it's like, why are women so obsessed with crime and true crime and everything? And they basically fell into four different groupings. And one was you identify with the perpetrator. One was you identify with the victim. One was like social justice. But it was interesting until I'd read these buckets. I didn't realize for me a lot, it is the victim. It's more like if I'm like in a fair amount and it's dark and I'm walking down a street and like there's footsteps behind me, I'll find myself playing that little game. Okay, if someone were to jump out right now, or if a white paneled van was to stop and the door swing open, what would I do to escape?
Mhm.
So it's interesting enough. It's that mental exercise. You wake up in the middle of the night and there's a creak in the house. Okay, if that's an intruder, what do I have hand? And it's for whatever reason. And I think that that's one of the things when I'm writing too, that's what I'm always identifying is the victims, but not being victimized. The victims fighting back. The victims is like, this is what I would do to protect myself, protect my family, protect my community. And I think it's that kind of empowerment and action that speaks to a lot of us because none of us want to feel helpless, right? We want to feel like if something unexpected or the worst happened, okay, we got this. This is exactly what I would do next.
Mhm.
Well, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the series. Thank you for this fabulous standalone. And thank you for taking through
Oh, you're
25
welcome for
years of
that alone.
kids.
I do feel like I've accomplished something now.
Oh,
This has been so much fun. Thank you
thank
so
you. Thank you
both so
so
very
much.
much.
Thank you. Thank you today to Lisa Gardner. Her new book is out August the 4th. It is called You'll Be Sorry from Grand Central Publishing. Thank you to Jessica at Grand Central for arranging this conversation. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your next book. Thank you.